Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays Today podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. Okay, so this beginning story is for anyone who is listening who has a hard time charging for the services that they deliver. So, earlier this week, we called a bat guy over to our house. Not Batman, a bat guy. Well, he would like you all to know that he takes care of way more than just bats. But we noticed last year that we had a lot of bats coming in and out of our porch, like overhang roof thing. And Kirby was kind of dragging his feet on it. And then something kind of clicked where he finally realized that like the longer bats are in your house, the deeper and deeper into the house they get. And that one day he was going to have to confront a bat inside our house. So that got him motivated. So we called this bat guy. So I come home from work and he's already there, like looking around our house, talking with Kirby about like all the things he needs to fix. And I kind of get there just towards the end when he's like figuring out his quote for us. So I come home, I'm like, what's going on with the bat guy? And Kirby's like, he's out in his car figuring out a quote for us. I told him he could just email us, but yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, he said there's a lot to do. And I'm like, duh. Yeah, we live in a very old house. We've lived here for 11 years. The thing's been built since 1930. We haven't done any like external repairs. So I can only imagine all the fun little places a bat can hide. And Curb's like, all right, so like, are we in agreement that if this is less than $1,000, we're just going to pull the trigger on this? And I go, gosh, if there's a lot of stuff to do, Kirby, this could be like $3,000 to $5,000. Now, this is a good place for me to let you know that neither Kirby nor I are very like handyman. So we have no concept of things. But like, I was thinking this could be in the thousands because I've seen the outside of our house and like where all the fun places for bats to get in. So he knocks on our door. I, greet him like, okay. So and you can just tell right away, he is so nervous and he's holding his yellow legal pad and I peek at it and it says $963. So I already know like, oh, Kirby was more like in my head, Kirby was accurate. Okay, great. We're going to say yes on this. And so, but he hasn't like showed me the number yet. He's like, okay, so, I did some math and anytime I make a quote, I always like make sure that I'm quoting the accurate price based on materials because like materials are really high right now and you can just see him spinning. And now just for a little background on this guy, he let me know that he's just a one-man show because he just started. I don't know where I'm going to put him at like 28. But so he's just sweating, just like having to tell me. And he's like, now I will say that like, this is one of the higher estimates. Because, you got a lot of places that need to be fixed. And again, I'm just waiting for him to tell me it's going to be $963. I'm relieved. I literally was prepared for like, what are we going to do if this is like $3,000? Like, we're going to do it because it's bats in our house. So I'm like relieved, just waiting for the dude to shut up and get to the point that, okay, your job is $963. He gets around to it. He says it and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. He had told me in this like spinning in circles thing that he was doing that he will only take jobs if people promise that they will install a bat house. Many of you are learning lots of things because like he's going to get the bats out of our house. He's going to seal up all the places, but then those bats just go to another place. And another reason that we got really motivated is our next door neighbors last year had a different bat guy, come. And we're like, oh, what are they doing? And I was talking to her like a couple weeks later and she's like, hey, just so you know, we have bats. And I'm like, yeah, we also have bats. And she's like, well, the guy said that like, if you have bats, your neighbors have bats, and then once they seal up our house, the bats are more likely to go to your house. And I'm like, oh, this really sounds like a problem. So anyway, so he finally says the number, and I'm like, cool, yeah. Can you install that bat house too? Oh man, you should have seen him. He's like, oh, okay, well that's not in the estimate. So yeah, yes, I can. But that's gonna be more. Let me see how much a bat house costs. And we're about to sit down to dinner, and I'm like, hey, we're about to eat. You know what? Don't worry, like, just shoot me an email with how much additional that. He's like, no. I want you to be prepared for how much it's going to cost. I'll spare you retelling the story for the next like 3 to 5 minutes, where he looks up how much a bat house is. They on Amazon range from like $50 to $110, but he tells me he can build a better quality one that he thinks he can do for $100. And I'm like, great. And he's like, then you're going to need a pole. I'm like, you're right. Yep, I assumed I would need a pole. So then he looks up on Menards, which is basically like Wisconsin's Home Depot. They don't have metal poles in stock. And I'm like, yeah, again, you can just let me know. And he's like, no. Finds a pole. Okay, it's going to be like $64 for the pole. Then he has to walk me through what he's going to do. He's going to dig a hole, and he's got to pour cement. So that could take like 2 hours of work. And so he finally tells me like, it's probably going to be like $300 for me to build this bat house and install it. And this brings the total up to $1,200. Are you okay with this? And I'm just like, Curb, you okay to pay $300 for someone else to install the bat house? And Curb's like, yep. And we're like, cool. Sounds good, dude. And so here's the point. To all of you who charge money for a service and you don't accept insurance, like, we are so nervous to tell people what the cost is because sometimes people are shocked. But I was prepared. I did not want bats in my house. I had no better solution than giving this guy whatever he said it was going to cost to get the bats out. And he was so nervous. And I was like, I would have paid you 5 times more. I wouldn't have been happy about it. And we would have had to budget, but I would have paid 5 times more. And you're so nervous about this price. Take my money, shut up, and get the damn bats out. And so, your patients. You've got patients that are in pain. You've got patients that have seen other doctors. You've got patients with kids that they're on the meds and the meds aren't working and they are just desperate for you to tell me what to do. I have this problem. I am incapable of solving this problem. And especially if you're dealing with a parent, it sucks when you cannot solve your child's problems. And I feel like we forget this as chiropractors because the glorious thing is how many of our children's problems we can solve by adjusting them. So it's rare. It's rare that we've got a kid that we're like, I don't know what to do with this. So we got to take him to the doctor, and I feel helpless, and the doctor's going to tell me what our solutions are. We just don't have that disconnect because of a lot of our knowledge. And so it's hard for us to empathize with other parents or people who are in pain who are like, I have no idea what's going on. Just tell me how to fix this and take my money. So there's your inspirational money mindset story. And I hope the bat guy doesn't listen to my podcast because he's going to come back with a much higher quote. Okay. So today's guest, wait. I have a listener highlight. Okay. So today's highlight is from, I don't really know their name. It's GSM Chiropractic, which, it's Dr. Morgan Wareham, which, I don't know. I wonder if that's the M in GSM. I don't know what GSM stands for because it's Columbus Mobile. No, I bet the M stands for mobile, but her name is Morgan Wareham. What does the G and the S stand for? I need to know. Anyways. She's a chiropractor, and she was a part of a re-entry group for the WDC that I talked to a couple weeks ago. If you don't know what the re-entry group is, you should, especially if you're a non-practicing chiropractor. Re-entry is a free program that the WDC, the Women Doctors of Chiropractic Association, puts on for women that are re-entering the profession. Maybe they got taken out by an injury, maternity leave, stay-at-home momming, whatever the reason, and they get to go through this program and graduate with a lot of skills. And the WDC brings in experts. I'm an expert to talk to them. And so I was talking about social media. So Dr. Morgan says, just wanted to say thank you for talking to us in the reentry group Tuesday. You're doing a great job, and I enjoy your podcast immensely. It keeps me grounded while I'm trying to raise these toddlers and attempting to build my practice. Love it. So thank you. She obviously has a mobile practice, and we are all just hanging in the dark, wondering what the heck that stands for, GSM. Okay, but anyways, today's guest. Ooh, I'm excited. So I unofficially met this woman. Her name is Emily Heisey, and she is a physical therapist down in Texas. Technically, I'm going to call it Dallas. I don't think it's Dallas. I think it's like a thing of Dallas, it's a metro, but like it's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I found her through Instagram, where I find a lot of people, because she's a pediatric physical therapist who has a pediatric chiropractor on her team. And I was like, this is cool. And their social media is beautiful and educational. And so I started messaging with them and talking. And then all this stuff happened with the CDC doing some crazy shit. And I was like, hey, I would love to have you on. And I would love to talk about your clinic that you've created, how you and the chiropractor work together for the betterment of these kids. And let's talk about what the CDC was smoking when they changed some of these milestones. So Dr. Emily Heisey, like I said, she is a physical therapist. She's a graduate of UT Southwestern and has practiced pediatric PT for 12 years. She specializes in a wide spectrum of diagnoses, including torticollis, gross motor delays, neurological conditions, and orthopedic injuries. Her patients range from birth to 18 years old. She chose pediatric PT because of children's positivity and their strong determination. She loves tackling any issue that presents itself with science and creativity. Thinking outside the box as she assesses and plays with kids is what brings her the most joy. And she loves physical therapy. So anybody who loves, did I say physical therapy? Chiropractic. She loves physical therapy too, obviously. She apparently loves that more because that's what she became. But we won't hold that against her because she has a huge heart for pediatric chiropractic. And so anybody who loves kids getting adjusted is automatically a friend in my book. So before we jump in, we are going to do what we do on every episode. And we're going to just take a moment, connect with our heart, and connect with God. Take a breath. Close your eyes if you can, unless it is dangerous. Connect with your heart. Check in. How you doing, friend? Is the world feeling really heavy today? I want you to know that you are incredibly special. And the work you do, whether you are touching the lives of barely anyone because you're just getting going in practice, or you're taking a break, or you are checking and adjusting and impacting hundreds of people a day, a week, you are doing really hard work. And I'm so proud of you. And I know that you are doing your absolute best, and that sometimes that best feels like horseshit. But you are in this journey, you are growing, you are looking to grow your heart and expand your love and your reach and become a better human. And I am so grateful for you spending this time with me and Emily. So in your name we pray, amen. All right, here is my conversation with Dr. Emily Heisey. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the show. So
thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I was excited to be on this for several reasons, but first and foremost, being it being pediatric, but two, being, the merging of chiropractic and PT.
Yeah.
Which is,
you've been taking that on your social media lately.
Yeah, I get a lot of heat for that. I can take it.
It gives me nervous diarrhea to think about the things that you get. I have a major fear of rejection. And so when you put out a story that was PTs just wondering, what do you think about this relationship? And I was just oh God, what is she going to get?
And it's wild. I think it's really something that goes back to what we all learned in school and what those professors learned in school and what those, and that's it. There is no basis for why there should be division.
So what I kind of get is the like rotator cuff sciatica chiros and PTs that are like, no, I'm going to fix their sciatica. And I'm like, cool, go ahead and fix it. I have joked many a times with my staff that the PT up like the street from me, I deserve a freaking fruit basket for how many people I refer to them. I'm still waiting on my first referral, but because I'm just like, you know what, John, I don't know. I gave you what I got. Go see PT.
For sure.
But when it comes to pediatrics, I don't get the turf war.
There isn't one. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
But no one is doing it right now. Like literally, I do think that maybe me and Matt, actually, I don't know of anybody else who's doing a cash-based pediatric, family health PT chiro model.
And it's just weird because
and doing it together. It just makes sense.
It just makes so much sense. Like, not to be cliche, but like, it's like peanut butter and jelly. Now, I do have a question. Do you have OT in there? Because does like OT make sense in this whole like love triangle? But we should clarify, you and Matt are not together. You are.
No. He has a wife and I have a husband, although his wife's name is Emily.
That would be complicated.
No, but I like to stick with what I'm good at and what I know. I know PT. I know how it works. I know how patients get better with that. And I have had my daughter in chiropractic before, so I feel like I have a grasp on how that intermingles with PT. So no, I don't think I'll ever get OT in there. I like to stick with what I'm good at. Just hone in on it.
What are some of the like most common cases? Like, what are your like, oh, hell yeah, I'm so glad you called. Chiro and PT are going to blow this out of the water. Like, what are some of the main conditions?
Main ones. I think the ones that make the biggest impression on people is probably like CP.
Okay.
Like the kiddos it's phenomenal, really. These kids have spasticity, right? So literally the quicker they try to move, the more rigidity they're going to get into their muscle. And so it's like an all or nothing. They're either going to go here or here, but they have to work in mid-range in order to transition, to pull the stand, to walk. And we have literally seen, without medication, children with spastic quadriplegia, arms, legs involved, sit upright, transition. They are physically working and moving through their spasticity, because of those muscle restrictions and those joint restrictions are freed up. And then neurologically, I'm now working in that new range of motion. And we've seen kids walk who couldn't sit 6 weeks before.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. And that's why we have people
literally do fly to do intensives. Like that's something that your clinic does is like, these intensives.
Yeah. We have 5 like international families in right now. Saudi Arabia, Canada, Brazil. I think there's 2 Canadians. But yeah, they come because, no one else is doing it. And that's why it gets a lot of, flack from people, because what people don't know, they like to criticize, but I don't care. I mean, we're making the money.
Did you know Matt before, or like, did you go like, how did chiropractic get involved in your life?
Yeah. So, I would say coming out of school, I'm like the least granola person there is. Okay.
I can relate to this. I like have to sneak ibuprofen to like chiropractic conferences because I like to party and I get hangovers because I'm 35. And so the next morning when I'm going to my chiropractic conference, I can't rely on these bitches to bring ibuprofen for my hangover. So I have to bring my own because you're not allowed to ask for that.
Yeah. Oh, I need to tell you about these little
Coke in my Hydra jug. I don't drink aspartame. It's killing us all.
I know, right? It's only organic stuff. Yeah. So coming out of school, I probably was like so many of those other PTs, like PT is the only way to go. Well, when I had my second daughter, she was around 10 months. She was not doing anything but sitting. And for the life of me, I couldn't do anything to get her to move. She wouldn't let me touch her. And I was like, I'm a PT. Like, I should be able to do this. And I was like, but I can't. There's something that's inhibiting her. And I knew that there was some kind of restriction in her left hip. I think it started as in utero positioning, and it ended primarily because of how hard and how much she had to go through with her acid reflux. So literally, I would have never gotten anywhere. So I found a pediatric chiropractor, and I said, I don't know what you're doing, really, but it sounds like you're doing something. And so the first visit, I swear, she used the activator, and I was like, that's not going to help.
What the, yeah.
I swear. Heidi screamed bloody murder that night and was so sore. I was like, okay. And then she let me move her into the side sitting position. And I was like, holy crap. So for 6 weeks, and this is where my whole like business model is built off of. For 6 weeks, I did chiropractic 2 to 3 times a week, and 20 minutes a day. I worked with Heidi because that's all I can muster up, because it sucked. It sucks when you have to work with your own kid. And she went from just sitting to transitioning, crawling, pulling to stand, and walking. 6 weeks, 20 minutes a day, chiropractic. And I said, I'm going to build a business off of this, because I've done it with my own child. I've seen the results, and I don't see why this wouldn't work. And so fast forward, I am doing my own thing at an outpatient orthopedic clinic, renting space from a friend. And Matt just DM'd me one day and was like, hey, you're local. I see a couple kids. I want to, I'm doing a couple things on social media. Let's talk about business. And I said, okay. And first off, I think everyone sucks too. I think, clinically, I'm like, I think that if you have to always prove yourself as a clinician. So I have like very high.
Okay, hold on. Here I go, everyone. Have you heard of the Enneagram?
Yes, I'm an 8.
Okay. I'm so glad you had an answer, because I was like, I do this all the time. This is like 150 episodes, and I still forget to just ask right off the get-go, like, do you know what you are? Because inevitably I'm like psychoanalyzing people of like, all right, we're in the 3-7-8 world. Okay, where is she? Yep.
And Matt is a 7. My husband's a 3.
3 and 8 in the same household.
Yeah, it works. But yeah. So
Matt, Matt reached out to you.
He reached out, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I referred him one of my like most challenging CP patients, and I still have videos of it. And he
was that a test?
It was, yeah. And I now tell him that
I said, okay,
no, I don't think I told him it was a test probably until like recently. I was like, that was your test. And he's like, what? I'm like, you succeeded, but that was your test. And then I said, well, now you're worth something. Like I know you're amazing, because you've got this kid sitting and moving, and I could do about 70% of that, but I couldn't do the rest. Like I had to have an adjunct in there. And after that, I tried to get him to come like work in my office. That's when I just moved over to where I am now, but I have expanded since. And he was like, I might, maybe just like one day, he was working for the man for a while. So, so anyway, finally, fast forward, he made it over here. We're rocking it. He sees adults and kids. And then I only do the camp families, and I have 3 other PTs who see a little bit of local, a little bit of camp.
Okay.
But it's 100% chiro PT model.
Oh, that is very cool.
People love it.
So then besides CP, what would you say is the next one? That
torticollis? It's hard. Torticollis or acid reflux? Acid reflux, probably. And you think, me and Matt talked about doing like some kind of seminar on this, but acid reflux, which is going to go a lot with torticollis, it presents pretty intensely when it comes to gross motor development. Like you'll notice asymmetries in them not wanting to roll. And then that turns into them just wanting to sit in one spot. Now they won't transition. All they want to do is throw back. Now those back extensors are so tight that they can't really do anything outside of that position. They can't sit. It's crazy. So taking away those, knowing how acid reflux is going to affect a child and they start showing signs of it at like 8 weeks, man, we can just take away months and months and months of therapy, but keep them on a wellness plan, which is very, very cliche. I guess maybe to say, maybe not in your world, but like, or maybe it's taboo rather in the PT world. There's no such thing as wellness.
I have a pediatric PT who I see, and it's funny because like I was talking, we were doing a doctor meeting and someone was like, why is this patient only once a month? Like I'm looking at the notes and I'm like, don't spook her. Okay. The fact that she is coming once a month is like, we are working on her long term. It is okay. She thinks that, so yeah, that's
so, I mean, I've had this discussion with a lot of other PTs. I'm like, this is where I feel like the medical model is going. It's going more towards wellness because insurance is outrageous. People can't get the care that they want. And there aren't the clinicians that are even there, whether they've either lost their job because of this or that. And then everyone's worked to death. So this is where it's going. And patients love it. And we're saving them so much more money. And we are exclusively cash-based. But people don't bat an eye.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's your kid. Okay. So how long have you been in practice then? Like,
this is wild. So I've been treating for like 13 years.
Okay.
I've had my LLC 20 months.
Okay. So you've been seeing kids for
13 years. Yeah. Like 13 years.
So I've been a pediatric chiropractor for 11 now. And so like, I didn't know if you were exclusively pediatrics or whatever, but so we're here to talk about CDC.
Yes.
Thingy, my bob. We don't know what they were smoking. I will say, and I want your opinion on this, that I'm shocked. I'm shocked that this was their air quotes solution. But then I'm also not shocked because so what I've been seeing in practice is kind of this slow digression.
Yes.
This creeping increase in diagnoses. And, so one of the things we've been asking for the last 5 years, and I promise there's a question in here somewhere, but your thoughts, that's what the question's going to be. So for like the last 5 years with ADHD and autism and all these like neurological, neurotypical things, everyone's like, are we just getting better at
diagnosing?
Right. Yeah. And it's a good question, right? It's kind of like, like I'm definitely not neurotypical and maybe I would have been diagnosed with something as a kid or, whatever. But I can tell you confidently that the number of children I have age kindergarten on up claiming they want to kill themselves because their anxiety is so bad is way more than when I started 11 years ago. So like, is the question, are we diagnosing anxiety more maybe? Or are we catching it more? But like, no.
It's environmental.
11 years ago would have said, my kid wants to commit suicide. Like we would have been aware of that.
But that's environmental, don't you think? I mean,
yes.
So social media.
With the CDC's response to like, this is what we're going to do. It kind of takes away the question we've been asking of like, is this just for diagnosing more? And it's like, no, we're seeing this more. So talk to me about that. You think environmental?
I think it's a couple things. Yes,
is what it is.
Yeah, I think one, if you want to just put it out there, I think a lot of it has to do with the man and the insurance companies. I think they are wanting to not pay for some of these early intervention services, or or just our outpatient services, outpatient PT, OT, speech. They don't care about this proactive approach. And if they push back, when a child should be doing some of these milestones, or take it out, because a lot of times crawling is the big milestone that kiddos come to me for. It's never rolling, really. It's always either crawling or walking. And then obviously some impairments within that, janky crawl or toe walking, whatever. But if you take that out, well, people are paying into that model, but you sure don't have to pay for services. So
you don't need the referral, because, oh my God, you must be so pissed. So like, as pediatric chiropractors, we're like, well, they haven't been paying for us for a long time.
Exactly.
You've got to be furious.
Yes, because so what that's doing, so now you're creating this bigger gap. And so it now, for a kid that should have been crawling at 8 to 10 months, we're at 15 months, still can't walk because the impairment should have been addressed with crawling. Now it's going to take so much longer to address things. But even with that being said, like, I don't know, the money issue, I think they think they're getting around it, but I think they're just making it worse. And now it's almost impossible to fix things quickly.
Yeah. So talk to me about crawling, because like, I'm sure back in neurology, I like had a lot more, but now I'm just like, yeah, it helps the right brain talk to each other. But like, talk to me about why crawling is so important and like what it sets a kid up for.
Yeah. So basically crawling, like you said, it's connecting the right and left side of the body. It's that co-contraction, and it's that bilateral coordination that you need for a lot of higher level skills, such as skipping, riding a bike, reading while sitting in your chair and not like falling out, right? Because you have to have the postural stability. Your posture. If you see kiddos 2, 3, 4 up, and they're the really clumsy kiddos, or they like to sit hunched over, I guarantee you they probably didn't do a lot of crawling, because that quadratus lumborum, one of the main muscles that pulls up our pelvis when we crawl, is like a big postural muscle, right? And there's not a way to, engage some of these bigger muscle groups in any other motor skill other than crawling. So what other skill is going to incorporate both sides of the body in a way that crawling would? It wouldn't, because see, if you're walking, you're vertical, right? If you're rolling, you're using more of the arm to bring it around, but the core, your gravity's pushing down on you here. And so being on that hands and knees position helps to develop the curvatures, the arches of the hands. So now we have the dexterity, handwriting, we have the shoulder girdle, we develop from the center out. So if our shoulder, our tummy and our hip muscles do not develop correctly, then everything out from there is going to be screwed. So what does that mean? It means that they're not going to be able to maybe run as fast. So is it going to be detrimental, like they're not going to develop? No. But will that be the kiddo that can't hang in some sports? Maybe. Will it be the kiddo?
I think detrimental. Yeah, of course it's going to be, because like, okay, we're going to get a little like melodramatic here for a moment, but like you have to, okay. So let's say we got a kid doesn't crawl. Great. Not great, but like, so they set their brain up for, they're struggling to read. Yeah. So then they're falling behind. They're starting to hate going to school. Yep. They're diagnosed with dyslexia, like starting to need that. They continue to feel embarrassed, and then they start dealing with anxiety. They hate going to school. Like, I mean, we're not even going to continue down the road of then they drop out and start doing drugs, but but like you can see pretty easily just before the kid is 8, where it's like school is extremely difficult. Yeah, because my brain did not develop as well. Like these connections did not develop. So now school is difficult. So like, I don't think it's that crazy to be able to to go like anxiety, will also increase with us. Like,
for sure. But yeah. I mean, and crawling is, God, like you said, yeah. Say anxiety stems from not being able to do some of those higher level skills, not being able to ride a bike when you're 5 or 6 years old and being embarrassed, not wanting to play with your friends on the playground because you can't crawl up the slide because you don't have the bilateral coordination and stability. So you go sit over there in the corner. I've had kiddos come in to see me like that. They're actually some of my favorite. They come in around like 3 to 4 and you get them back on track. But yeah, they are on the road to anxiety, depression, worthlessness. And could we fix this with crawling? You can't take crawling away, CDC. Science has not changed. The body has not changed. Just because you said we don't need it, the body still develops exactly the same. So there you have it. I mean, it's science, it's anatomy, it's the biomechanics. That is true science. That's what it is. So whether the CDC says it's worthy of being a gross motor skill or not, it doesn't matter. The body.
So what does it look like when you have a kiddo that kind of skipped crawling, had a janky crawl, and we haven't gotten to the fact that they like moved those other milestones.
Oh my
get to there.
God.
So
yeah.
like, what do you do? Like, is it the earlier the better, or is it kind of like, well, no, once they're 3 years old, it's just as difficult to fix as when they're 8? Or
I think, well, first and foremost, when I started doing this like Instagram page, which was like 2.5 years ago, there was like 2 other PT, there's like 1 other PT account, pediatric PT account out there. And so I feel like ever since just bringing more awareness and taking that stigma away from it and getting people more aware of what are issues, I think has helped just make things not as scary. So I'll say that first and foremost. So I am getting kiddos a little bit earlier, but what makes a difference between a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old? Well, what makes a difference cognitively between a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old? What happened in their life between those ages? At 3, a 3-year-old really doesn't see what's around them, right? I have a just now 5-year-old and an almost 7-year-old. And what Hannah sees at 7 and the emotions she feels, Heidi is just now kind of entering into some of that. So it is easier in that, we're not having to deal with the frustration as much, the anxiety of failing.
You're saying older or younger?
Younger.
Okay.
Yeah. But both of them, it doesn't matter which one, you will still make the same amount of progress, or I typically do. But it is a little bit more challenging because you have to fight through that frustration. You have to make them excited to be there, and you have to make it all about them. And like, I get a ton of like little boys that are from like 6 to 10. And those are my favorite patients. But you build them up and it takes time. But I would say half of therapy is not only gross motor development, it's psychologically building them up. But once they're built up, they're cocky, they're awesome. Like, and you set them up for life. But yeah, it's a kind of a crapshoot either way. But I'm glad that hopefully, even with this platform, with Instagram, that people can look past the CDC and still see what's true.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything that I'm hoping for the last couple of years has helped people, is to just ask more questions.
Yeah.
Just ask more questions. And like, I was talking, so I have a pediatric OT that I see. Mm-hmm. And we were talking one day because she like works for the hospital, like the hospital's program. And I'm like, yeah, well, at least they like refer to you. Like they are like, our hospital in our town is legally, or like their laws is that they're not allowed to refer to pediatric chiropractors. And so I like make a joke. I'm like, it's like illegal for the pediatricians to recommend to us. And she laughed and she's like, but they don't refer to us. They don't know what we do. And I'm like, what? And she's like, no, they have no idea. I've talked to doctors in our hospital that don't know we even have a pediatric like PTOT wing.
Yes.
They don't know. And I'm like, wait, what? And so then it's like, how it's there. It's hard because you can't, I'm never in the business, and I'm sure you are, of like bashing any other providers, medical,
Sure.
whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And so like I had a guest on who said like, it's their reality. So like, we can't be mad that they're not doing these referrals because their reality is that they just don't know.
They don't know what they don't know.
How has that not been fixed yet? Like and this is, I don't expect you to have a great answer to this, but how is it not being talked about more? Like at least PT, like my hope was that you guys at least were in the inner circle.
Oh, no. I've been to many pediatrician offices, and, basically I was educating them on what I'm doing. Like, they're like, you do repositioning, meaning like for torticollis and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, they don't just need a helmet. We could reposition them. Like, but here, I think it goes back just to this whole like medical model that keeps people very much, I don't know, contained in their area, in collaborative work between something like a doctor and maybe an allied health professional isn't maybe as jazzy or is as looked upon as something as phenomenal as it should be. We should be collaborative. And this isn't as a whole. I think there are I have a ton of pediatricians that follow me. But yeah, I think it's just something that, again, it goes back to school. And secondly, I will say this, and I don't know about, I'm probably y'all around the same, but in PT school, we took one pediatric class.
Mm-hmm.
One.
And we like didn't have hands-on.
No. Yeah. No. I mean, if you got lucky enough to have a clinical rotation,
right.
And so that's why like building blocks, which is for, PTs, OTs, speech, pediatricians, chiropractors, it's taking that base knowledge and fast forwarding you like 5 years, because it's like, that's not freaking fair. Like, you come out of school not knowing things, and we're expected to know these things. And then pediatric chiros or PTs or OTs get a bad name that we don't know what we're doing. We don't. So maybe that's why the doctors don't refer to us, because maybe they think they're not going to get the results, but that's a flaw in the system.
Yeah, it really is. What do you have to do? So within chiropractic, there's a couple different main trainings that you can do, usually about a year and a half, let's just say, of like weekend work that you're doing like once a month. What do you have to do as a PT to like say like, I am a specialist?
Well, that's interesting.
We're actually not allowed to say we're specialists. I was going to say, wait, actually, that's like an illegal word in our, but like I focus on, because yeah.
Okay. So you can take this test and become a pediatric certified specialist, a PCS, and you can put that behind your name. Will that make you more money and give you more clients? Absolutely not. That's the way I say it. I don't have a PCS.
What do you have to do? Do they provide like a training?
You pay. Okay. You pay to do that. And that's something that you do outside of school after you've graduated. Now within school, you can opt to have a clinical rotation. That's usually about 14 weeks in the pediatric realm. I had one. And then my first job out of school, I just got lucky and had some phenomenal mentors, an OT and a PT, and they taught me everything. And from that point on, I was able to gain that knowledge from other little places that I went and hopefully tried to share it. But yeah, it's a big flaw in the system. So I don't know if it's necessarily just the doctors. They don't know. I think it's a collaborative. It just, no one has an answer, because there's just not an emphasis on pediatrics. There just isn't. And I don't know why, because kids like,
they used to be healthy. And maybe that's the thing, is like, it used to be like, well, the kids are healthy. Why do we need to spend time on them? But the kids are not healthy anymore.
Mm-mm. No. And so, and I don't know if this is environmental or what, but I mean, I see the rarest of the rare, genetic syndromes down to just a torticollis case. But these parents can't get help anywhere. Like there's no one who, and the doctors are like, well, I mean, they may walk. I don't know. I mean, that's not looking good. But it's like, so it stinks for some of these patients that have these like rare genetic syndromes where you think that, a kiddo is going to be healthy, but on the outside, they do look healthy, but on the inside, their body's just not working with them. And so I don't know. I think that's where that divide becomes between the medical professional or the MD and like the allied health, and they don't know what we can do. And then they're not referring out. Then now these kiddos don't have like any, I don't know, I guess parents don't have any type of hope that things will get better. But I don't know. It's flawed because these parents will pay any amount of money to get their kid better, and we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be why, for people who don't know Emily's Instagram account, it's massively successful. That's got to take a lot of time. When I look at like, yeah.
Well, I when I started it, I just started because my friend told me to do it, and I was like, no one cares about this crap. I love it, but no one cares about this. She's like, no, just try it. And this is all organic. I've not paid for anything. But I love telling people and breaking things down easily. And I just didn't want people to be scared. There's nothing to be scared about. Just because your kiddo is walking on their toes for, a couple weeks or 2 months, I'm going to tell you how to fix it. And I'm going to tell you why they're doing it. And I'm going to empower you. And that's the empowerment is what people want, especially in this current, climate of whether it's medical or political, whatever. But they want to feel empowered. And so I think, and I was real. Yep. I mean, I was like, I went through this and it sucks. And it's not fair, but it shouldn't be scary. So I'm going to tell you how to fix it. And I gave it all away free. I didn't care because it was just like a side gig. And yeah, it's like a second job for sure. I now have a social media person, but I just hired her only like 9 months ago. Before that, I did it. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the other thing that the CDC did. They moved. Is that a Coke Zero, by the way? I love that we talked about aspartame, and I'm like, see, I was going to grab one, but then I'm always worried I'm going to burp on. Are you not a burper?
I mean, no, and if I am, it's okay.
You know what? That's really nice of you. You're like, you know what? If I burp on her podcast, I don't give a shit.
This is me.
All right. So the other things, what else did they do? They moved.
They moved walking to 18 months, which is, for me, if a kiddo isn't walking, my cutoff is 16 months because there's not a lot that's going to change from 16 to 20 months, really, in a child. There isn't. And the reason why they're not walking is pretty clear. It's typically goes back to the feet. So if we could address those feet at 16 months or 15 months, why would we wait until 18 months when now we need to start learning how to go up and down a step and go on our tiptoes and jump?
Why Tell me more. That? You said, so if they're not walking, it's the feet. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So basically, and I tell this to like all my clinicians and then even what I teach and building blocks. So when you see a kiddo not walking, the first thing you're going to look at, the first thing you're going to address is where that base of support is coming from. And for walking, that is the feet. In sitting, that's the hips. But in standing and walking, that is the feet. If you do not address and put those ankles in the proper alignment, and maybe they're flexible, maybe they're pronated, whatever, if those are not in the proper alignment, everything up from there, the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, are not going to turn on properly. And then you're going to see funky compensations. That you're going to see them going up on their toes. Kids are scrappy. They're going to do what they need to do, or they're just going to not stand up because their knee is going to continue to fall over their toes because they have so much, dorsiflexion or whatever. So if you address those ankles first, it becomes very clear where the impairment is. And I'd say 90% of the time, putting on a good shoe fixes the issue. Easy as that.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to bank that you were going to say barefoot. Why is everyone all about barefoot then?
If you have a typical ankle meaning, your kiddo, obviously they, around the 11 to 12 month mark, they did start walking. I would say that's a typical ankle. You don't need to wear shoes. And unless they are, walking 85% of the time and you're like leaving the house, right? Because it's just kind of gross, maybe. I don't know. But so if you have a typical ankle, but what we're seeing is, and what the problem is that these kiddos are 14, 16, 18 months, they're still not walking, and they think barefoot is best. And keeping them barefoot is actually doing more detriment. I mean, that foot is all cartilage until about 2-3 years old, right? And it's not going to fully ossify until about 7. So if you don't put a good external support on kind of a foot that's not doing everything it needs to be doing, then a lot of things get kind of messed up.
So this is for a kid that is standing and not walking.
Yeah. And that's why I try to do a lot of pictures. I'm a very visual person. So like on my Instagram, you'll see a lot of videos, a lot of pictures, because people want to see what it looks like. So to be pronated, right, to have a fallen arch inherently is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that they're doomed to be, delayed, but it does mean that when they're learning a skill like walking, it will probably delay them a little bit, and they're going to need a good shoe forever. My husband has the flattest feet ever, and he was delayed in walking. It was like, didn't walk until he was like 16 months, but he's a PT as well, and he's always on his feet. He has to buy new shoes every 2 to 3 months, and it has to be Brooks, and they have to be, you have to have like the 4 things, like the solid arch and the last, not needs to be curved, and all these things. But so I think shoe education is a big thing. But I know the whole barefoot is best. I mean, that, I think you take that for what it is. If you see your kid falling behind in a skill that they should be doing, meaning they pulled a stand at, say, 10 months, and at 16 months, they're still not walking. There's something going on with that ankle.
Put a damn shoe on them.
And I'll tell you, they put a shoe on it, and that kid takes at least 1 or 2 steps. They have confidence. And I'm like, you're not screwing them up by putting a shoe on them and educating them on what are good shoes. No one talks about shoes. I don't know why.
Well, because I feel like I've been told that barefoot is best.
But and then that's the whole thing. It's like with the Back to Sleep campaign, don't put your child on their belly. But what are some of the issues that arise from that? Well, it could be, positional plagiocephaly, torticollis. Same thing with shoes. Like if barefoot is best and you do not want to put a shoe, you're going to see some delays. If a kid possibly has some issues going on with their ankle.
Can you imagine how pissed off the PTs were back in, what was it, 91 with the Back to Sleep camp?
Oh gosh, you got to know.
Which just gives me no hope, because like that didn't change. That didn't change anything.
You know what? But this is the deal. Social media was not what it is now.
It's true.
And we are empowering moms, dads, grandparents, other clinicians to say, that isn't right. And giving them the confidence to do that. That's the difference.
So besides walking, there was another one, right? In my head, there were like 3 big changes.
Right. And I think there were some speech ones too, but another one was they didn't learn how to sit until 9 months. But that was also coincided with, they also learned how to transition and pull the stand at 9 months. And I was like, that is categorically impossible. It is impossible, because the child is not going to have the protective reactions if they just learned how to sit. It's going to take at least a month to acquire any type of protective reaction. And then after they have that, then they have to have the hip stability to go into that side sit and pull into their tall knees. So how in the world are they in 9 months going to do that same skill? It's impossible.
So we talked about so
I love talking about gross motor development. It's like my jazzy.
So then, we talked about why the CDC changed it, right? Like, makes sense, money. Why is it needing to be changed?
Could that be part of the pandemic? I don't know. Like, is the care not there? And we're pushing everything back because, just where we've been as a country. Like everything's been on hold. I don't know, possibly. Or is it maybe parents are at home more with their kiddos and they're becoming more aware of issues and they're getting more freaked out and they're going to their pediatrician saying, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look right. Whereas before they wouldn't. And now they're trying to make some concessions for that. I don't know. I think probably, I feel like there has to be something with all the pandemic stuff that has made a shift with the CDC and making them wanting to do it now. Why now?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing of why now, but like also what's going on with the kids? Like what is happening to these kids that it's getting worse and worse each year?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it can go a lot of different ways. With that.
I think it's a lot of it. Like, I think if anybody thinks that there's a single component, it's like, no, I think in general, we're kind of butchering childhood, like these first early developmental years.
Yeah. I mean, if I was a speech therapist and you were asking me the same thing about some of the things that they took out, thing that I would mention, right? Because maybe that is holding up articulation or expressive language.
What did you say? Sorry, what would be something you'd mention?
Masks.
Oh, masks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was like, is that affecting expressive language? Is that affecting articulation? I mean, I don't know. I mean, you got to know that your breath support isn't as great, and you're not going to get that breath sound. Your diaphragm isn't going to be expanding as much because your oxygen is down. I don't know. I mean, so this is why I'm thinking that if I was a speech therapist, I'd say that. But it's hard to say it's one or the other. But
and it's hard that nobody, like, it feels like, so we're the ones that are just being told, right? We're the chiros, we're the PTs, we're the OTs, we're the speech therapists. And even like you're pediatrician, right? Like we're just being told. And so it's like, well, who's in charge of asking the harder questions of like, why? Like, they didn't even have a clinician. They didn't even have a PT, OT, speech, chiro on the board that made all these rules up at the CDC, right? It was all medical doctors. There was no one in the allied health profession. Don't you think that's funny? Interesting? That's weird. I mean, not that chiropractors weren't like, I would have like, but like a PT, I go back to like, come on, you guys, I was hanging my hat on the fact that like you were in the inner circle.
No,
like a neurologist. Well, and like, honestly, like, let's be honest, a pediatric neurologist, like they're focusing on different things. Like,
no, they are. And I had a meeting with a pediatrician and I was like, why aren't you referring here? And why aren't you doing this? That? He's like, look, Emily, we've got to look at the whole body, all the systems. Okay. We've got a short amount of time to do that. And we have to look at the whole body of a child. So no, we're not going to focus specifically and hone in on the musculoskeletal system for XYZ amount of time, because there simply isn't enough time. But that's why we have Mm-hmm. And so to make rules and change something like gross motor development that is like our specialty and not include us in it is kind of crazy. And because they aren't the experts in movement, but they are the experts of the whole body. But this was specific.
Yeah. Yep, this was specific. There was an opportunity there. So, well, okay. For the listeners, whether they're parents or PTs or chiros, or anybody else, my mom, talk to me about your courses. And is this the building blocks? You've mentioned this a couple of times.
So I've got a couple different courses. So I have courses that are strictly for parents. Okay. They're video courses. They're easy. They're digestible. They're short. They're to the point. Rolling is one of them. Crawling, within the crawling, it has like transitions, the janky crawl, the army crawl, how to fix some of those issues. And then you have walking, starting from
my daughter had a slutty crawl. I called it the stripper crawl, where
what was that?
She would have, so like she would kind of be like on the floor in like a Captain Morgan stance, right? So like one foot up, and she would just like scooch her way across.
Okay.
She got it figured it out. We like made sure
it was like a mixture of like a bum scoot and like a janky.
Yeah, but I called it her stripper crawl because it looked like a Magic Mike kind of like Channing Tatum, like what he would do. And I was just like, it was hilarious.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have it on video, but
you got to find that.
I'm going to find that. It's got to be on video.
And then, yes, but almost giving it a name. Yeah, but giving it a name, even just like a janky crawl or something, it's more approachable, right? So that's what I was trying to do with the courses. And a lot of times it's a tight hip. A lot of times it is just fixing how they stand up, whether going up with that left leg, go up with the right leg. Easy changes, and then you can fix the issue. So it's a way to empower the parents where there may be an issue where they don't feel like they have to go directly to therapy. Let's try this first and see if making some changes at home and implementing your 20 minutes of purposeful play, see if that makes a difference. I guarantee you it will take you at least 2, 3, 4 steps further, if not where you want to be in terms of your child's development. And you'll start to learn some things. So I've got walking, crawling, rolling, sitting, and transitions come out in like 2, maybe a month or so. And 4th trimester guide, where I talk about like everything from birth to that 4-month mark in terms of gross motor development and what you should be looking out for and things like that. And then building blocks is for clinicians. So that's all about teaching facilitation techniques, how to address some of these impairments and how to critically think. And that also has pelvic floor PT, women's health in it. So it's a little bit of both. And it had chiropractic this time around, upper extremity, lower extremity, with Matt. And he did a lot of manual.
So question from like a business standpoint, like, did you, when you were making these courses, like worry, like this is just business, okay? Did you worry like, well, I don't want people trying to fix their own shit. I want them to come in and pay me, the expert, like here's where my brain as a chiropractor, it's like, it sounds like what your courses are, which are obviously seem safer, of like, oh, does your elbow hurt? Well, try doing this move type of thing. Like,
Well, and that's where you get into that gray area of wellness and therapy, right? Wellness is basically anything you can find. I feel like anything you can Google and find. But even without that being said, I am just one person. So my visits are 45 minutes to an hour. How many people do you get in 45 minutes to an hour? You get in a ton more.
Right.
Don't you?
But
right.
Still, like, yeah. If I was limited to 15 minutes, it'd be.
And you mentioned you're 35. I'm 37. I'll be 38 in August. I'm getting old.
I'll be 36 in September.
Yeah. I'm getting old and my body is tired. I have to find a way to passively help people because I can't help everyone.
Well, and I would imagine, if somebody's bought your course and like, you're like, okay, great. So you already tried that kind of intro step. Now I can save time and go right to this next level of like, so that didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. But I mean, I think it just came down to, I can't treat everyone.
Yep. Nice.
So this was a way to kind of give some control to the parents in a way that's safe and really it's easy. These are just ways to play purposely with your child.
I hate playing with my kids. Did you always like playing with your kids?
No, I did. This is what I did, the purposeful play. This is why I am a type A, like mom, and this is why my children are the way they are. I could never just play with them. I have goals. My PT brain has goals. I'm like, why are you just sitting there? Reach for that toy right there.
You're great. Well, next time I'm in Dallas, we'll meet up for sure.
Yes. Yeah. You were you got to see Courtney when you were here, right?
I did. I did. I got to see Courtney Gowan.
Yeah, we've gone out to dinner with her a couple times. She came to my Christmas party. She's so sweet.
She is a blast. Yeah. So, yep, I showed up to the Ritz-Carlton in a vintage band tee, and I was like, well, I thought we were going two-stepping, but that's all right. The Ritz, it's fine.
She loves the Ritz.
Yeah. So. Okay, well, tell people where to find more of you.
Yeah, you can find me on my Instagram, which is Kinactive Kids, or is it Kinactive @Kinactive_Kids. My website, www.kinactivekids.com. And that tells you everything about virtual visits, chiropractic, PT, how to get the courses, everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I am just absolutely fangirling over what you and Matt are doing. I don't know, the Enneagram 3 husband of yours, he's got to be pushing you to like franchise, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm just like I just want to be in control. I just don't know what I'm gonna do other than that. I just want to be in control of it. But that's just 8. Or what are you? Are you
a 3? Yeah.
Yep.
3, my mom's
7,
an 8,
and 8.
so I'm very familiar with 8s. She tried telling me that she actually thought she was a 9, and I laughed. I was like, very large difference, Mom. Sorry, you're definitely not a 9. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. No.
All right, Emily, thank you so much.
Yes, this was fun. Let's do it again. If you ever want to, really freak people out, just talk about more of the PT chiro model. It like blows their mind.
One day I'll just get strong enough to maybe that's what I'll do. When I put this episode out, I am going to ask my audience, like, what do you think about this idea of working with a PT?
I think you're going to be surprised at how many people are like, hell yes. Yeah. So. Like, oh, I should get a fruit basket for all the pediatric chiropractors who have gotten patients because of me.
You should. We should all get fruit baskets, damn it.
Can I get some fruit? Lord.
Fruit. Oh, okay, Emily. Thank you so much. Bye, hon.
All right. Thank you for having me on. Bye-bye.